Hey everybody, we're back with Table Talk with Uncle Luck. This episode is sponsored by Elite Construction, y'all. Elite Construction, y'all. They service all construction needs: roofing, flooring, sheetrock, painting, demolition, general repairs, custom projects, y'all. Elite Construction, you can contact them at 337-326-1447. So y'all, today we are highlighting domestic violence. We're talking about domestic violence. And we have a lovely lady with us, Miss Eva Noel, who is the owner of Noel's Network Entertainment. How you doing, Miss Eva?
I am great.
You're
Thanks
great?
for having me, Sean.
Hey, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. You know, so tell us a little bit about yourself, you know?
I am a single mother, have been with both of my children. I have two grown boys, 38 and 23. He's about to be 24. I am ex-military. I served in the United States Army for 8 years. I did not retire. I actually ended up in the military running from an abusive relationship. And it was actually one of the best decisions I could have made myself.
So the reason for going to the military was to get out of that abusive relationship.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, I had nowhere to go and no way to turn. And I ended up coming back home, which Louisiana is back home. My family had no idea what I was going through, and that's where it picked up.
So, you know, tell us, how did this relationship begin?
It's crazy how this relationship began. I left an abusive home as a teenager. Actually, part of my entire my entire childhood, and you have a tendency to kind of follow and seek what you're familiar with, and that was the pattern. And so I ended up in Job Corps. Wanted to go to college. I couldn't afford college. My parents couldn't afford college. It was just kind of like out there, just trying to find my way. And I ended up in Job Corps, and my very first day there, I met who ended up being my husband. And the crazy thing is, I met him in the midst of a fight he was involved in. Yeah.
So he was involved with a fight.
He was involved in a fight with his current girlfriend at the time. Yes. And I know people would be like, that is just stupid. And honestly, you have to live it to understand it. But it wasn't something that I was immediately attracted to. He actually seeked me out. I think I was a new face on campus. And I avoided him for a while. And it just became overpowering. He became overpowering, and he won me over. And it started out, he was good. But I mean, the behavior pattern was there immediately. But it started out, he was good. Like most relationships start out, they're good. You know, and as time goes on, you start to see more and more. So time went on, and about 6 months, I think he got out, I got out. Within the year, we were married.
Wow.
Yeah, within the year, we were married, and we ended up moving to Dallas. He was originally from East Texas, and we moved to Dallas, and that's where it just...
Now, what age was around
I
this?
was 22 when I married him.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 22.
22, moved to Dallas and just...
Yeah, didn't know anything about the city. I was just a little country girl. You know, I thought I was doing a thing,
Yeah.
but in the big city, and you learn your way real quick. You know, it's like a fish out of water. You find your way real quick. It's sink or swim type of thing. And I wasn't gonna sink because I can't swim. So, so I was fighting my way through. But we moved there. I immediately found a job. He was working, and then it got to a pattern where he just stopped coming home. You know, the Fridays would come, and I wouldn't see him again until Monday. And it kept on and kept on, and finally I started questioning it. Mm-hmm. That's when the abuse kicked in. Mm. You know, I started questioning, where are you? You know, why aren't you coming home? And you know, it's just, you know, cursing. First is, you know, you start the verbal abuse starts, you know. Yeah. And trust me, I was not the person you know today. Yeah, I was nowhere near that person you know today. I was very, very timid. Yeah. Very timid. Yeah, no, people that know me now, they'd be like, there's no way. But yes, I was extremely timid. You say boo and I was jumping, you know.
So had you not questioned him, he probably wouldn't have.
He probably would not have.
Abusive.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, as long as I was going to tolerate what he was doing and accept whatever, I'm sure it would have been fine. Mm-hmm. But that just was not me. I knew that's not what a marriage was supposed to be. You know, we never spent time together. I mean, I would work 2, 3 jobs. He'd take the money. He was gone. You know, he'd get fired from his job for all sorts of, no show, being late, whatever. So I was trying to hold things together at the time. Then I ended up getting pregnant and I had my son. And time went on. I was raising my son pretty much by myself. He could be in East Texas, which was 2 hours away from Dallas at the time. I never knew where he was. I don't think cell phones were around then. No, as a matter of fact, they were not. So it was just a matter of like calling his mom's landline or calling people that I knew to even know if they heard from him. It got to the point I was calling hospitals.
Wow.
Yeah, checking, because I just
if
wouldn't.
If
he's still here, yeah, because he wouldn't come home for clothes or anything. It's just whatever he had, he was missing until he decided he wanted to come home.
So the abuse, did it get gradual as you went on, or it just happened all at one time?
No, it got gradual. It wasn't so bad in Dallas, but then when we ended up moving to his hometown, that's when it spiraled out of control. It got really, really bad because now he's on his own stomping grounds. That's his territory. And he started, having relationships, and his hometown was a very small town like Opelousas, okay? And people talk.
Gotcha. So it was easy to kind of find out what he was doing,
Of course, I was working for the police department. I knew everything that was going on. But people weren't telling me, I was witnessing.
So when this relationship, when you had your first physical altercation, what went through your head? Like what went through your mind when it turned physical?
The first physical altercation, I felt like I caused it. Because I was warned, don't say another word to me or I'm going to smack you in your mouth. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, right, And I opened my mouth to say something, and sure enough, he did, and the blood flew. My face went one way and blood flew another direction. And I think he split my lip, I think is what it was.
Jeez.
And then it just continued to get worse. It went from, split lips to broken nose, dislocated jaw, fractured ribs. The worst night ever. I'll never forget it. To this day, I think I told Roy Chip Anthony this. I think I'll never ever go to another Keith Sweat concert. We were at a Keith Sweat concert. I'll never forget this, in Tyler, Texas. And for some reason, he didn't want to be there. He wanted to be with another woman. But it was he and I and another couple. It was his supposed to be best friend. And we were there, and he just had this sourpuss look on his face. And I was like, well, what is wrong with you? Don't say I'm, to me. Because I'm like, I said, Carlos. And when I said his name, oh, my God, he punched me smack dead in my mouth. My lip split. I think he broke this tooth. He drugged me out of the concert. I'll never forget.
This was in front of everybody?
In front of everybody in the concert. Keith Sweat was on stage in all white, standing on top of the speaker. I'll never forget it. Yeah, drugged me out of there, threw me in the car. The other couple rode with us, so we all got in the car. And he's flying 90 to nothing. And I'm screaming. And this is like traveling down I-49. I'm screaming, slow down. And all of a sudden, he just hits the brakes on the car, and the car just went to spinning. And say we were traveling northbound. When we stopped, it was facing southbound, opposite direction. Thank God there was no traffic coming. He got out of the car, slammed the door, started walking. I turned the car around and drove home. I went to his mom's house. When he got there, I don't know, somebody gave him a ride or whatever. It was a knockdown, drag out. Oh, my God, I'll never forget it. He was the type, he could grab me with one hand around my throat, and he could hold me up on the wall, and he knew exactly when to let me go. My eyes would turn white. And then he would just let me go, and I would just drop to the ground. And he did that numerous amount of times. That's why I say sometimes I think something might be wrong a little bit, right? I make light of it now, but at the time, it was the most scariest time in my life. It was horrific. It was just astonished. It was crazy.
So how did you get out of that situation?
This went on for a total of 8 years. My family had no idea.
So the couple that was with y'all that was there, nobody said nothing, nobody tried to help?
Yes, of course, his friend tried, but he's like 6 feet tall, he's 220, solid, muscle-bound dude, rage of, when he loses his temper, it's just rage beyond control. Mind you, only child, spoiled, okay, raised by mom and grandmothers, you know.
So dad wasn't present?
Dad wasn't present. No, mom and grandmother did the best that they could, you know, but he was used to having his way and doing what he wanted to do and not, you know, not facing consequences behind it. And so that trickled into the marriage, and that went on 8 years. And when I left a couple times, and he always managed to talk me back. But that third time I left, I knew I had to be smart about it, or I was going to lose my life, because there was one point where he actually put a gun to my head, and had the gun not jammed, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Wow. The
gun jammed, and it pissed him off, and he threw it, and when he threw it, it discharged. Yeah.
That's nothing but God.
Yeah, trust me, I know. Trust me,
that's nothing but God.
I know.
Wow.
I know, but so, you know, after that, and you know, the black eyes and dislocated jaw, and, you know, the ribs and the teeth knocked out, and, you know, just numerous things over and over and over, you know, being thrown out of a car, you know, all that kind of stuff. I realized I had to be smart about the situation, because he was not going to let me leave on my own. That wasn't happening. So I did. I planned it, and he would take all the money and everything. So I started stashing coins. You know, I had a mason jar, and I started just dropping change in there, but I kept it hidden. And so one morning I remember telling him that our son had a doctor's appointment, and we had one car. I'll never forget that car. It was a 76 Oldsmobile Colors. It was silver. Never forget that car. He said, well, drop me to work when after his appointment, you can pick me up at lunch, bring me the car. Okay, not a problem. Drove him to work, kissed him goodbye, doubled back, picked up my son, and never looked back. Wow. We left with the clothes on our backs and that mason jar of coins. That was the gas money. It took 4.5 hours. Those were the scariest 4.5 hours of getting here.
Wow.
I swear, Sean, when we got here, I was a basket case. I was shaking like a leaf. That's when my dad found out and I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. That's when my dad found out what had been going on. And I said I wasn't going to cry.
Hey, it's all right. Let it out.
That's when my dad found out what had been happening, because he started blowing up the phone, calling, looking for me. And then, of course, my dad was cursing him out in French. You know, like, he didn't know what my dad was saying, but I knew what he was saying. But I want to say that was maybe a Thursday or something. I remember that Saturday morning, my dad was at work, and I couldn't sleep. I was watching television, and I saw that commercial, Be All You Can Be. I immediately called a recruiter, told him I needed to talk to somebody right away. So they sent someone, and I told him, you know, I said, I'm on the run. I'm running for my life. I'm afraid, you know, my husband's going to kill me. Within 2 weeks, I'll never forget that recruiter. Within 2 weeks, I had the physical exam. I had taken the ASVAB. I had taken, you know, the everything that I had to do, and I was out of here. Wow. I had to sign over power of attorney of my son, which I did. But you know, I was out of here, and that was the first time ever I felt like I was safe. When I finally made it to boot camp, there was nothing they could say or do over there that hadn't already been done.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew they couldn't touch me. And I'll never forget when they piled us off of the what they call a cattle truck, which is a bus. They're yelling and screaming. You got 15, 20 drill sergeants yelling and screaming, and you got all these young girls, 17, 18 years old, fresh out of high school, you know, and they're crying and boo-hooing, and I'm just standing there. I'm just like, you know, I was like numb. Literally, I was numb. And a particular drill sergeant pulled me off aside, and he said, I don't know what you're coming out of. He said, but nobody can touch you here. And I just fell apart. I literally just fell apart, because I finally felt like I was finally safe.
Wow.
And that's the short version of all of that, but yeah. So that's how I got out of that situation. And going into the military was the best decision I could have made for myself at that time. I had lost my self-esteem, my integrity, my independence, everything. I was stripped of everything. And going into the military helped me to find myself all over again and develop who I am today. And that's when I vowed to never, ever let anybody interfere with my life like that again on any level. Now, mind you, it was hard, Because I was hard. I was cold. I was bitter. I was angry. I would be ugly to people. Not intentional. It was a self-defense mechanism. And it took a while, and several people that I was close to just was like, Eva, why are you so bitter? Why are you saying? People didn't know my story.
But they didn't know your story. They didn't know what you had come from.
Right. They didn't know my story.
Yeah.
But they shed light on of who I was, and that's not who I wanted to be. And so I had to start working on who I am now. Now the person that people love and people respect and and appreciate. That's who I want to be. So that's who I am. Like I said, that was a long road traveled. That was from 22. Now I'm 61. Wow. It's a long time.
So you find that experience hurt you with dating or trusting men again?
Absolutely.
Going forward.
Absolutely. I married for a second time when I was in the military, my second son's father. And he was an officer. I was enlisted. And people that know the difference, they understand. But he had what I call control. It was, I think it was a lack of self-esteem in himself. I call it a short man syndrome.
So I take it he was a lot shorter than your first husband.
Oh, yes, definitely. But a year in, I was like, oh, no, I'm not doing this again. I know that abuse comes in different forms, and his was emotional.
Okay.
And I'm like, no, I'm not going through this. A year, and I'm like, no, you know what? I'd much rather be happy and single versus married and miserable. You can have all this garbage. And I packed up again and left. Material things don't mean all that to me. My peace of mind means everything to me.
So that second marriage was more of a verbal, emotional battle.
Yes. It was more emotional. He wasn't to the type that was like insulting a thing, but his insecurities just drove me crazy. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. You're not going to start accusing me of this one and that one.
See.
And I know I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
No, No. So I'm like, I'm out.
So what was your coping mechanism throughout all of this? Like, what did you find that was your, that one thing that you had to do just to bring peace within yourself throughout these relationships?
I became a workaholic. I buried myself in work. Whatever I was doing, I buried myself in work. And I found myself working so hard and so intense that it became a point of where I wanted to satisfy other people. I surrounded myself and I just dove in head first, just with work and my children and reestablishing a life for myself, making sure that I would never, ever put myself in a position of having to depend on a man. And I hate the way that it sounds. It's not to insult men by any means, but as a woman coming out of situations like that where you've actually had no control over your life, that's the position that you find yourself in. And you're like, I'm not going to give anyone that type of leverage over me ever again. So I made sure I never would. So I started doing things to build my life and to secure a future for myself and my boys, to make sure that my back would never be against the wall like that.
Wow. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because, from those two attempts, and I'm sure there was other issues and other relationships that you had along the way, right. That has that mindset. It made you think that way.
Oh, yeah.
And
definitely.
especially as a mama protecting your kids, you go, look at it that way, as a protector.
Absolutely.
And, I think a lot of women, get into the having to play both roles in a sense. The protector, the provider,
nurturer.
Not wanting, but being forced to
do so. Exactly.
have to do that. And I think it's important for men that you do meet to understand that, understand what I've had to do.
Right.
So you got to understand why I need you to be able to handle this side of things, or give me reassurance that you can handle this part of it, because I've been doing it for so long. And it's not that. I think a lot of men look at it, oh, well, she's controlling, or she is the man in her life. Well, she had to be.
Yeah.
She had to be, because one thing as a mother, you're going to do anything you have to do for survival for your kids.
Absolutely right.
And I think more men need to understand and open up and realize that, what this woman been through. Right. Why is she behaving or moving the way she's moving? It's from past trauma bonds or past pain. So I think, with getting to know somebody, they got to be open to understand and try to step in to where you don't have to do
This is true.
all of those things.
They say they understand, but it's hard for someone to understand if they haven't witnessed some level of it. You know, in the beginning, it's all like, yeah, you know, I get it, I understand. But their biggest problem with me is always, well, you're too strong and you're too dominating and you're too independent. I'm sorry, I'm not going to change who I am, but here's the reason why I am the way that I am. But if that's a problem for you, I understand. It's okay. You know, because it's not for everybody. I totally understand it, but I'm sharing with you why I am the way that I am. And I'm not going to let go of that. I'm sorry. You know, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I will never let go of that.
I don't think there's a wrong in your emotions and what you're feeling.
It's not. It's just a matter of getting the right person in your life that is willing to accept you and understand that and show you that, hey, there are some of us out here that love. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, that four-letter word is a very powerful word, but it can also be a very controlling word.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed that. Yeah. And I'm not going to allow anyone to control me with the power of love. It's not, because that I don't view love in that sense.
Did you have to seek any professional counseling or professional help to overcome some of the hardships in this?
It's crazy that you asked me that, because I had a conversation with a few women just last week. And I was saying, you know, we as women, and I won't say just Black women, but I think it's more discerning with us, with Black women. We've learned and we've been taught from very early on from our ancestors to just deal with things as they come and, you know, accept it for what it is, deal with it at the surface and bury it and keep on moving. Because, you know, we are providers. We got, you know, we're the moms and, you know, we got to make things happen. But so, no, I had not. We just tolerate for what it is. And, you know, it's like for my ancestors when they were slaves, you know, look at all that transpired then. What did they do? They accepted it for what it was, you know, dealt with it, maybe cried a minute or two, buried it and kept on moving. And the process continued to repeat itself. And it moves down, it worked on down from generation to generation. And we were taught to be strong women, you know, suck it up and keep it moving. So that's what we did. But ironically, coming out of the military and dealing with other things, I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD. And I said, no way. I was like, not me. You're like, there's no way. But when it was explained to me, the definition, and I was like, wow. You know, I was like, well, you know what? I've been having PTSD for many, many years.
Yeah.
So now talking to a counselor, and it's crazy because I asked her, I said, how long am I going to have to do this? And she said, and as long as it's going to take, and until you don't cry about it. I said, well, we're going to be here a long time. Yeah. Because I cry with every session.
Now, PTSD, I think it affects everybody differently.
It does.
It does.
It does.
What do you feel that it affects you by? What are your triggers with it?
My triggers are making me remember. That's what triggers. That's definitely what triggers me, because I've buried those things and I don't want to remember them. You know, that's why I say accept it for what it is, bury it and keep it moving. You know, forget about it. But you bury so deep, and then someone starts, you know, you're forced to have a conversation with someone, maybe just in a sense of trying to help somebody else. And then it brings it back to surface. It makes you remember what you went through in the process of you trying to help someone else. It's a trigger. It's a trigger.
So, you know, to the people that's watching this podcast, to the other ladies, what advice can you offer them? You know, anything you'd want to tell them from your experiences on, you know, getting out, you know, anything you'd want to?
The best advice I can give to anybody when it comes to getting out, be very limited as to who you share information with. Be very, very limited and be extremely cautious. Be very smart about your exit, as I had to be. You know, when I decided to make my exit, I didn't tell anyone, not one single soul, no one, because I didn't have family there. But even if I had, I wouldn't have told them. That was the value of my life and my child's life. I could not take the risk of somebody letting somebody else know, because, you know, people, you don't tell anybody. Okay, well, they tell somebody, and that somebody tells that somebody. It would have gotten back to him before I would have got out of town.
So you think not having social media at that time because right now everybody posts everything they do, everywhere they check in, everywhere they go.
Right.
So he would have been able to track you a lot easier and have access to you a lot easier with Facebook or with the social media. So do you think not having a lot of that social media, the way things are today, where people have access to you, was one way for you to escape as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Although I wouldn't have posted it, somebody that knows me would have posted a picture, especially, I mean, as much as I'm in the media now, with everything that I do. He would have found me a long time ago. Now, knock on wood, he's deceased. At this point, he died, I think, at the age of 48.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, cancer. And no, I did not pray this on this man. I did not pray this on this man.
Yeah.
But I know, the Bible strongly states you will reap what you sow, And I think it was like maybe 20 years we had been divorced when he passed, and my son called me and asked me, well, he told me what was going on. And then a week later he told me that, his dad had passed, and he asked me would I come. And I said, I'll come for you. And I swear, Sean, when I walked in there, I did not know who I was looking at. Wow. He looked like he was 80-some years old. The cancer had eaten him up so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, he looked really, really bad. And I hate to say this, but I had no remorse. I just had no remorse. I mean, I was there for my son. I was so beyond that past life. I was there for my son. And I just, honestly, I just prayed for my son. Seriously, And of course, his mother, because she, to this day, I still communicate with her. She's very sweet. I still communicate with both of my mother-in-laws, as a matter of fact. They were great. It's just their son. I'm sorry. It was just horrible. But yeah, social media, I am grateful that it was not prevalent like it is today.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
That make a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's just a blessing to have you, on this podcast, and, for you to be able to share your story and, just motivate and encourage other women that's going through this struggle and going through this. And, and as you said before, a lot of the violence and abuse is not always physical.
Right.
Mental, as you said, is one that's hard to heal.
Yeah.
Physical, you can heal physical.
Right.
It'll bruise, and, a cut will eventually heal, but a mental wound, emotional wounds are
there forever. Yeah. And people have a tendency to be crippled by fear. Don't let fear cripple you. If you feel like you have no purpose and you have children, that's your purpose. Because I honestly felt like I had no purpose. Nobody loved me. Nobody cared. But I had a child.
Yeah.
And I made that my purpose. And I'm grateful that I did, because I'm still here now, with both of my sons. So don't be crippled by fear. Please don't do that to yourself.
That's awesome.
Life is short enough as it is, let alone us wanting to check out of here, prior to our given time. Embrace it and, make the best of it.
Make the best of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hotlines right now. I know there's the Faith House in Lafayette. They have a 24-hour crisis hotline. 1-888-411-1333 is one of the numbers. And there's local outreach centers for different places available as well. I know the local one for this area is 337-232-8954 for the local outreach center. So I know there's different, hotlines and faith houses and shelters and things for women in a lot of the major cities. But I know in rural areas, it's a lot harder to find help.
It is.
But I know 911 is always a go-to, if it's a worst case emergency situation. But, I always say that self-defense is important.
Yes.
And unfortunately, knowing how to handle a weapon, self-defense classes, things like that to help you build enough self-esteem.
Absolutely.
And enough encouragement and motivation to get out of some situations where some of the legal, aspects are not necessarily in your favor.
Right.
You have to make a wise decision on what do you have to do to protect yourself.
Right. So, there's a lot of churches too.
A lot of churches.
You can go to your church and they can, they'll shelter you depending on the church.
Okay.
They can shelter a couple of days and then point you in the right direction and make sure that you get the proper assistance that you need discreetly.
Gotcha. So, if there's anything else you'd like to share that we haven't touched on that you want to discuss?
No.
Okay.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. I did it a couple of years ago. I want to say with Keep 'Em Talking, Kenneth Boudreaux. I was on his show, as well as Take Back the Night with Laura Baltazar. Yeah. So I'm not one of a public speaker. I really, but this is a very sensitive matter, and when asked, I definitely don't mind speaking on the matter if I can render assistance to someone. Sometimes they just want to be able to talk to somebody that's been through it.
Yes.
Yes. I'm fine with that. I don't mind
fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, y'all hear she's fine with that. Y'all, if y'all need to reach out to Miss Eva Noel, y'all, thank you so much for being on Table Talk with Uncle Luck. For some of y'all that may not know, she is my manager.
It's the first serious conversation.
The first serious conversation we had. She does booking for a lot of artists, y'all, a lot of entertainers. If you are looking to try to get into managing yourself, she does offer some courses and some guidance on contract writing, negotiating deals and whatnot. So, Noel's Entertainment Network, she is available. So, y'all make sure y'all follow on social media, Eva Noel, y'all. And
you can find me at karaoke every Saturday.
At the Brass Room Karaoke every Saturday, y'all. Again, y'all, this is Table Talk with Uncle Luck, and this episode is sponsored by Elite Construction, y'all. Hit them up, y'all, on Facebook. They take care of roof, plumbing, electrical, any type of construction that you need, demos, rehabs, flips, you name it. Elite Construction, y'all. Follow them on social media. This podcast is powered by the Yard Studios, y'all. The Yard Studios. So you need any photography, you need podcasts, videography, commercials, anything you need, y'all, hit up the Yard Studios. Thank you.